In a secluded mountain village, a series of animal remains mysteriously surface overnight and seem to have been demolished by an unidentified force. In Yugami, an investigator specialized in such occurrences is summoned from Tokyo to examine these calamities. Subsequently, a group of boys in the village becomes thrilled upon hearing about the detective's arrival from Tokyo in their town. Among them is a boy named Yutaro Kusaka, who aspires to visit Tokyo one day and become a detective himself. Yutaro then proceeds to mock his peculiar-looking cousin named Kabane, who resides with them, instructing him to stay outside upon the detective's arrival due to his persistent odor. Meanwhile, the detective in Yugami is observed stranded by the roadside with a flat tire. Later on, Mrs. Kusaka, Yutaro's mother and Yugami's client, appears on the road and offers to give him a ride to their home, where he will be staying temporarily. They discuss the unexplained animal carcasses and decide to keep the investigation a secret from the children to prevent them from getting frightened. The detective agrees and pledges to do his utmost to maintain peace in the village. At the villa, Yugami notices Kabane toiling in the fields and greets him. However, Kabane remains silent, merely bowing, leading Yugami to believe he is either shy or a diligent worker who prefers not to be disturbed. During the evening, Yugami is unwinding in the hot springs when Yutaro enters and offers to assist him with washing his back. Yugami then inquires about the boy he spotted in the fields. Yutaro informs him that the boy's name is Kabane, also known as Dorotabo, a nickname derived from a yukai, and he always labors outside in the fields. Apparently, Kabane was born with an extremely unpleasant odor, causing others to shun him and avoid any interaction. Yutaro's mother kindly took him in after his parents abandoned him. After bathing, the detective asks Mrs. Kusaka to relieve Yutaro of his duties and requests Kabane to attend to him instead. The following morning, Kabane prepares coffee for Yugami, and after some conversation, Yugami asks the boy if he has witnessed anything unusual recently. Knowing that Kabane often works late in the fields, Kabane discloses to Yugami that he is aware of the recent appearance of dead animals and that he is actually the one responsible for disposing of the corpses. He explains that these incidents usually occur during the new moon's night and the next new moon is in 5 days, implying that it will likely be the next occurrence. Afterward, they both await the upcoming new moon, and during this time, the detective dedicates most of his hours to assisting Kabane with his daily tasks. One day, Yugami notices a pendant around Kabane's neck and inquires about its origin. Kabane admits that he is unaware of its nature, but he has carried the pendant since birth, presuming it belonged to his parents. He explains that he was likely abandoned by them, but he has cherished this stone throughout his life. However, Yugami recognizes the symbol engraved on the stone and corrects Kabane, informing him that it is called a life stone. He informs the boy that this stone possesses a unique essence that can only manifest under extraordinary circumstances. Given its value, Kabane's parents would not have left it with him without reason, indicating that he was not actually abandoned. The detective proceeds to ask Kabane if he desires to meet his parents someday, expressing his belief that he may be able to locate them if Kabane wishes. On the night of the new moon, Kabane patiently waits outside for Yugami, but he is suddenly confronted by Yutaro, who harbors jealousy towards the attention Kabane receives from the detective. Yutaro begins shouting at Kabane, asserting that he is not special and accusing him of attempting to ruin his opportunity to go to Tokyo. Enraged, Yutaro forcefully tears off Kabane's necklace, triggering a transformation into a demonic creature. Witnessing the horrifying metamorphosis, Yutaro swiftly flees in terror, but Kabane, while in his demon form, manages to retrieve the necklace and reverts back to his normal self. Overwhelmed by guilt upon realizing his actions, Kabane is devastated and found sobbing near the barn until Yugami discovers him and reveals his own tail on his back. Yugami explains to Kabane the existence of kimono, rare beings that have coexisted with humans for centuries, discreetly concealing their true nature. He discloses to Kabane that he is a hybrid of a human and a yukai, and the significance of the stone lies in its ability to maintain his human form and suppress his thirst for harming humans. Yugami further reveals the presence of another culprit responsible for the recent animal deaths. Understanding that Kabane is innocent, Kabane realizes that his cousin Yutaro has sought refuge in the forest, terrified by witnessing Kabane's transformation. Together, they venture into the forest in search of Yutaro. Eventually finding him, Yutaro finds himself surrounded by transformed dogs, only to be swiftly dispatched by the united efforts of Kabane and Yugami. Shortly after, they encounter one of the perpetrators, a malevolent moose, and it swiftly launches an assault on them. However, Kabane possesses remarkable strength and defeats the creature using his bare hands. Inugami is impressed by Kabane's display of power, but then Inugami discloses a shocking revelation. He was actually hired to eliminate Kabane, and he had been deceiving him all along. Kabane was the true culprit, and Mrs. Kusaka was aware of his true nature as well, having been informed by her sister when Kabane was entrusted to her. Without hesitation, the detective shoots Kabane in the head. Returning to the village, Inugami informs Mrs. Kusaka that he has completed the task and departs, taking Kabane's lifeless body with him. However, Kabane miraculously regenerates, defying death. Inugami explains that this phenomenon is possible due to Kabane's hybrid nature as part Yukai and part human. He then takes Kabane to his office in Tokyo, where he encounters two other orphans named Shiki and Akira. Inugami reveals that he has taken them in as they, too, belong to their race known as kimonos. Inugami extends an offer to Kabane to stay in Tokyo and join their detective team, but advises him not to rush his decision. Curious about Kabane's unique scent, Akira questions if he is also a kimono like them. Inugami clarifies that Kabane is a hanyo, a term for someone who is half kimono and half human. Due to the potent yukai within him, Kabane possesses immortality, rendering him an immortal demon. He shares similarities with Shiki as they are both hanios. However, Shiki is displeased with the recruitment of a new member and becomes enraged upon discovering that Kabane is wearing his clothes. Shiki asserts his superiority, emphasizing that he is 1 year older than Kabane, before storming off to the bathroom. Later, when Kabane goes to the bathroom, he inadvertently trips on a wire, leading to a confrontation with Shiki. Kabane explains that Inugami is assisting him in the search for his parents, but Shiki dismissively laughs, suggesting that they are likely deceased or that Kabane was abandoned. Attempting to stand up, Kabane unknowingly tugs on the wire, creating a hole in his leg. To Shiki's surprise, Kabane demonstrates his ability to heal and regenerate the injured limb. The following day, they embark on their first investigative assignment. Upon arrival, the police inform them of a pest infestation that has attacked a family within their home. Inugami explains that something within the room is attracting the pests, and unless it is removed, they will continue to plague the area. Shiki attempts to employ his silk-based powers to create webs and ensnare the creatures, but the bugs swiftly devour the webs, rendering his efforts futile. Before Inugami intervenes, Kabane volunteers to enter the room. This decision instills fear in everyone present, considering his young age. However, Inugami agrees, recognizing that Kabane can survive the ordeal since he does not produce blood or experience pain. As soon as Kabane steps inside, the bugs swarm over his entire body, yet he remains unaffected, impervious to their feeding attempts. In this state, he successfully locates the object responsible for attracting the bugs and causing the infestation in the house. Inugami informs the resident boy that the bugs are nourished by the human emotion of guilt, and the item attracting them was a pair of stolen shoes taken by the boy's younger brother in an effort to assist their impoverished mother. Subsequently, Kabane agrees to join the team on the condition that Inugami aids him in locating his parents. Later, the detective engages in a phone conversation with an enigmatic woman named Inari, who holds significant influence within the Tokyo police. Inugami discusses Kabane and expresses concerns about his potential threat. The following day, Inugami sends the boys to the police station to meet Inari. However, the officer on duty doubts their connection to Inari and prevents them from seeing her. Suddenly, a girl named Kon emerges and inquires about Kabane, revealing that Inari awaits him in her office. Upon meeting Inari, Kabane notices her peculiar behavior and realizes her sole interest lies in his life stone. Inari elucidates that the stone has the power to sustain kimonos as a race without relying on human energy, and she seeks to replicate it by removing Kabane's head and storing it in a suitcase. Inari then commands Kon to eliminate the other boys waiting outside. Meanwhile, Kon disguises herself as Kabane, but her true form as a Katsune is unveiled when Shiki provokes her by insulting her master. She commences an attack, engulfing the area in flames. Shiki employs his silk to form a protective barrier, and catches the suitcase containing Kabane's head. Taking hold of the head, Shiki confronts Kon, enraged by her failure to impress Inari, as she had vowed to never disappoint her again. Kon intensifies her assault with fireballs. While the boys seek cover, Kabane instructs Shiki to throw him at Kon, asserting his determination to put an end to her. Thrown by Shiki, Kabane seizes the opportunity to bite Kon in midair, swiftly defeating her. With her defeat, the illusory flames dissipate, restoring the police station to its previous state. Kabane then regenerates his entire body, leaving Shiki astonished and envious of his abilities, despite being of the same kind. Nevertheless, Shiki recognizes the importance of friendship and decides to befriend Kabane. As they venture outside, they encounter Inugami, who reveals that the stolen stone had been planted on Kabane by him. Inugami explains through Inari that the stone she possesses is actually a counterfeit, while the genuine one remains with the boy. Inugami admonishes her for her betrayal, inciting Inari's immense anger. Later, they gather outside their office, but upon arrival, the fox girl Kon reemerges, insisting that she requires Kabane's head to fulfill her mission for Inari. However, due to her injuries, she faints instead. Inugami takes her inside and tends to her. Subsequently, Kon confronts Inugami, persistently requesting Kabane's head as she cannot return to her master, Inari, without it. Inugami, however, deceives her by transforming an orange fruit into a replica of Kabane's head, thereby tricking her, and then dismisses her. Shiki points out that she will seek revenge once she discovers the ruse, but Inugami dismisses her as a threat. Meanwhile, Inugami assigns Kabane a new task, instructing him to proceed to the riverbanks and investigate supernatural deaths occurring near the sewers. Accompanied by Akira, Kabane arrives at the sewers and inquires about Akira's abilities. Akira reveals that he can manipulate water and turn it into ice, but admits his struggles in harnessing his powers during stressful situations. Suddenly, they are attacked by a colossal frog-like being that captures Akira. Nonetheless, Kabane manages to free him. Before the frog creature can strike again, a tanuki messenger, representing Inugami, appears, delivering a letter along with a pouch and a vial of blood. Inugami's message explains that the frogs are renegade kimonos, deviating from their own kind and abandoning their pride. The blood enclosed with the letter is intended to attract these frog-like creatures, and Inugami requests Kabane to draw them out and eliminate them in order to safeguard the city's inhabitants. Fearful, Akira hesitates, but he recalls his purpose for coming to Tokyo, to confront his fears and grow stronger. Thus, he chooses to remain and assist Kabane. Akira releases the demon blood into the water, and the frogs swiftly approach. While Akira struggles and lacks courage, Kabane valiantly battles the creatures alone, employing his strength and various techniques to repel them. However, he becomes overwhelmed as their numbers increase. In that critical moment, Akira remembers how others perceive him as weak and resolves to change their perception. Suddenly, he unleashes a massive ice attack, freezing and defeating every single creature. Just a few days later, Kabane is tidying up the hallway when he gets pulled into a mysterious chamber, where he encounters a man named Mihai, who has been residing in Inugami's office all this time. It turns out that Mihai is an expert in it and handles all the behind-the-scenes tasks. Inugami is displeased that they have discovered Mihai's presence, as he is a merciless vampire with supernatural abilities. Inside the office, Mihai emerges from his room after months and reveals that Kabane indeed injured his wrist during an arm wrestling match, preventing him from playing video games. Consequently, he decided to assist with the investigative work instead. Later on, Mihai cunningly traps Inugami in his room and sends the boys on a risky mission to investigate a factory notorious for the inexplicable deaths of its employees. Recently, the deaths ceased abruptly, and they need to determine the reason behind it. Before entering, Shiki covers his entire body with silk webs, rendering himself invisible as the silk threads reflect the surrounding objects. Shiki infiltrates the factory, and within, a toy car approaches him. Mihai reveals that he controls the remote-controlled car, which can also become invisible. He informs Shiki that the car will serve as his companion. Soon after, they discover that all the employees in a room are behaving peculiarly, working like mindless zombies in a row. Suddenly, one of them tries to escape but is apprehended by the manager, and taken to a room where a woman transforms into a mosquito kimono and feasts on his brain, compelling him to resume working endlessly without using his brain. Shiki becomes terrified of the mosquitoes and claims he cannot face all three of them. Disagreeing, Mihai volunteers to confront them, prompting Shiki to attempt an escape. However, Mihai employs the toy car to create a distraction, catching the woman's attention. The person who discovered the car swiftly conceals it and falsely claims there is nothing outside. But the others appear to distrust the woman, and their leader decides to search the area. The mosquitoes employ their kimono abilities to locate the invisible Shiki, but Mihai employs the car to electrocute one of them, saving Shiki's life. Shiki, however, becomes immobilized and frozen in place. Mihai realizes that Shiki must have experienced traumatic events in his childhood and merely puts on a facade of toughness while actually being fearful. Eventually, Shiki regains his senses and employs his silk to camouflage himself, enveloping the room and releasing various toxins into the air to confuse the kimono, learning how to trap it, and incapacitate it. Simultaneously, the other two boys arrive to aid Shiki, with Cabane carrying the mosquito's sister and boasting about easily defeating her. Subsequently, the boss mosquito arrives, having fed on the brains of her two sisters, seemingly becoming even more powerful, and knocking down Akira and Shiki. The only one standing is Cabane, and with guidance from Mihai on how to properly utilize his kimono powers, he taps into immense strength and tears off the creature's arms. Suddenly, Inari's newly appointed aide, Nabamaru, emerges, obliterating the remnants of the mosquito creatures. He explains that it was necessary to prevent humans from discovering the existence of the kimono species. The following day, the group embarks on a journey to uncover more information about Shiki's parents. Upon arrival, the boys explore the town, and Cabane stumbles upon a book recounting a local legend. The tale tells of a man who found a spider in his meal and, despite his own meager possessions, decided to share his food with the creature. The next day, the destitute man's home was adorned with golden webs, which he sold, ultimately leading him to a life of wealth and happiness. As they peruse the book, a mysterious girl with pink hair gazes intently at Shiki. Soon after, Inugami approaches, announcing that he has located Shiki's uncle. They venture into the forest, where the man reveals that Shiki's father passed away while his mother was pregnant with him, and his mother succumbed to an illness when Shiki was merely 5 years old. During the night, while they are in the restroom, Nabamaru appears and invites them to explore the forest, aiming to foster a closer bond among the group, as they had started to drift apart. However, as they traverse the forest, Shiki begins to recollect memories of his mother journeying into the woods for work, instructing him to stay behind. Intrigued, Shiki follows the path she used to take, with the others trailing behind, concerned about his destination. Eventually, Shiki arrives at a hut, simultaneously recalling his mother entering the same dwelling and having a disturbing flashback of a night when he secretly followed her and witnessed something horrifying upon opening the door. His mother was engaging in a peculiar union with a colossal demon kimono, and some kind of experiment was taking place, elucidating the cause of Shiki's lasting trauma throughout his upbringing. Inugami escorts Shiki's uncle to a secluded spot in the forest to converse privately. With minimal pressure, the man discloses that he had been involved in the experiments conducted on Shiki's mother, utilizing various kimono creatures. It was during these experiments that a kimono with the ability to produce golden silk was born. He discovered that this golden silk possessed the power to regenerate human cells, and he envisioned amassing a vast fortune from it. However, unbeknownst to the man, Shiki had overheard his entire conversation through a phone call. Emerging from the shadows, Shiki ensnares his uncle in a tree, poised to exact his revenge. Suddenly, a colossal Kamino materializes and attempts to devour Akira, but inadvertently bites Inugami's hand, injecting poison into his system. The group finds themselves surrounded by hordes of kimono creatures, forcing them to scatter. As the creatures close in on them, Shiki's uncle elucidates that these beings are Shiki's siblings, products of the experiments conducted on their mother. Gradually, all the creatures begin to speak with their mother's voice, causing the boy to collapse. Meanwhile, Aya, a mysterious young woman, arrives in Inugami's vicinity and manages to pacify the enraged Kaminos, guiding them to a lake that heals Inugami's injured arm. Meanwhile, Shiki remains heartbroken upon hearing his mother's voice emanating from the demonic beings. Consequently, he instructs Cabane to eliminate them all on his behalf. Cabane undergoes a transformation and commences a battle against the monsters, aided by Nabamaru. Together, they vanquish the creatures, including a colossal kimono. With the confrontation concluded, Cabane hurls Uncle to the ground and asks Shiki if they should deliver the final blow. However, Shiki realizes that even if they were to kill him, it would not bring his family back, leading him to choose against it. Suddenly, Aya appears at the scene and inquires from her uncle, her father, the whereabouts of the cocoon she had crafted. Evidently, this cocoon is instrumental in producing the golden silk. Inugami decides to contact Mihai, who has accumulated data over the past year while investigating Uncle, enabling him to identify the 4 locations Uncle frequents the most. Mihai shares these spots with Inugami, and Aya has a revelation about the cocoon's possible location. Determined, she rushes toward it, but Shiki catches up and declares his intention to retrieve the cocoon himself. He plunges into the water and discovers that his mother is still alive. Bringing her to the surface, a startling revelation unfolds. His mother has been the golden web all along. Therefore, they successfully rescue her, and Inugami brings the entire group back to his residence in Tokyo. He informs Shiki that he knows of a place in the city where he can provide assistance to his mother. However, as they depart, Nabamaru reemerges and ultimately puts an end to his uncle's life. Later on, we witness Aya's fear that her brother Shiki would harbor resentment towards her. However, Shiki assures her that if she hadn't survived their father's experiments, their mother wouldn't be alive today. Subsequently, their mother awakens, overjoyed to see her children alive and unharmed. At this moment, Aya decides to join them on their next mission, officially becoming a member of the investigation team. It becomes evident that Aya has developed feelings for Kabane and asks him out. Just then, Kon appears, driven by jealousy, and challenges Aya to a fight. Inugami explains that their next task involves confronting an invisible Kamino who has been disfiguring random women's faces in her quest to become the most beautiful woman in town. Upon their arrival, the fox girl feels disheartened by the attention Kabane is giving Aya and stays behind, where she hears a voice imploring for help. Suddenly, an invisible force tugs at Aya's hair, prompting Kabane to strike the air in order to save her. Subsequently, a Kamino named Katanashi emerges and reveals that she has been removing specific parts of girls' faces in her pursuit of beauty, all to win the affections of a boy working at a nearby store. Kon loses control and attacks Aya, but Kabane comes to her defense, causing Kon to retreat to the office in tears. Back at the office, Inugami receives word that the issue has been resolved, as Aya managed to create a physical body for Katanashi, who vowed to never harm anyone again. During the night, Kabane searches for Kon in the forest and consoles her. On the other hand, Inugami accompanies Kuni to a secluded location where she secretly pays tribute to her other deceased kimono children. Later on, we are introduced to Yuri, Akira's twin brother, who reminisces about the time they were born and how the women of the village catered to all their needs. Twin kimono births are exceedingly rare, occurring only once every 100 years. As a result, their mother kept them confined indoors, and they never had the opportunity to meet their father, who was locked away in a hut outside. However, as long as they provided support for each other, the duo became an unstoppable force. In the office, Akira consistently found herself accidentally causing mishaps that disrupted their planned missions. Her frequent blunders began to irritate the others, leading Akira to flee. During her escape, she coincidentally encounters her long-lost brother, Yuri, who had been searching for her and predicted she would be at Inugami's place. Both of them venture away from civilization, and when Akira grows weary, Yuri decides to construct a massive ice castle for her to rest in. Impressed by the structure he built, he attempts to capture a photo for social media, but her brother destroys the cell phone and seals the castle shut. Inugami notices the news report about a gigantic ice castle and rushes to the scene. Upon arrival, they encounter a crowd of onlookers, but when Yuri prepares to attack, Inugami shoots him, dispersing the crowd. During this time, Yuri reveals a stone resembling a Kabane's life stone embedded in his chest. The detective explains that this stone, known as a null stone, possesses the power to unlock the full potential of a kimono, and can both destroy and rebuild lands. Akira eventually exits the room and descends the stairs, only to discover that Yui has frozen all her friends, leading her to believe they have perished. Meanwhile, Inari and Navamaru wait outside, plotting to seize Yui's null stone. Yui experiences a flashback to their childhood when he was appointed as the leader of the Ice Village, while Akira remained relatively innocent. Yui has endured various traumas throughout his life, while Akira has mostly been sheltered from them. In the meantime, Kabane manages to liberate himself by generating more body heat. Once free, he realizes he must find a way to defeat Yui. However, Akira, in an effort to prevent a conflict between her brother and friends, pretends that it was all part of their plan and claims to hate Kabane while professing her love for her brother, expressing her desire to live with him. As soon as Yui returns, he willingly departs with his sister, leaving his friends behind. Subsequently, Inari appears in the castle, urging Kabane to assist her in stealing the null stone. She asserts that the artifact might be connected to his parents. Kabane agrees to help her but warns that if she is deceiving him about his parents merely to acquire the stone, he will handle her differently. Before his departure, Kabane insists on waiting until his friends are unfrozen. However, Inugami communicates with him using the bear and transmits messages through brain waves and heart frequency. Inugami assures Kabane that their friends are safe and encourages him to find his parents and retrieve the Null Stone from Yui. Meanwhile, Yui and Akira find themselves in the forest when suddenly Nabemaru emerges and confronts Yui, demanding that he surrender the Null Stone to Inari. A fierce battle ensues between them, and amidst the fight, Akira calls out to Yui, momentarily distracting him and allowing Nabemaru to make contact with the stone. However, his hand freezes to the bone and shatters, an unexpected consequence. As they contemplate their next move, Yui closes in on Nabemaru, but Kabane swiftly intervenes, defending his comrade. Together, they devise a plan to defeat Yui. Nabemaru sets Kabane ablaze, and Kabane utilizes his regeneration power to continually heal himself, enabling them to counter Yui's ice with their fire. Witnessing Kabane transform into an overpowering fireball, Yui encases his body in ice armor. Meanwhile, Akira remains trapped in the ice cage and realizes that the mist in the air is water, allowing him to form a large ice ball and free himself. The intense battle between Kabane and Yui persists, but Nabemaru warns that if the flames overpower Kabane's regeneration ability, his body will collapse. Nabemaru instructs Kabane to execute 3 specific strikes against Yui to defeat him. Harnessing his full strength, Kabane delivers the 3 simultaneous blows, and during the final strike, Akira courageously intervenes to save Yui. She explains that the stone has been draining his energy while protecting her all along. Determined to ensure Yui's survival, she tears the stone from his body, granting her access to all of Yui's memories. In that moment, Kabane's body undergoes regeneration, and he assists Akira in reviving her brother by merging his life stone with the Null Stone. As the stone falls to the ground, Inari seizes the opportunity to steal it. However, Inugami arrives just in time, demanding its return, asserting that the artifact never belonged to Inari. At the hospital, Kabane inquires about the Null and Life Stones, but Inugami interrupts and explains that thousands of years ago, a war between kimonos and humans ravaged the lands, leaving devastation in its wake. It was during this time that the stones were formed and exclusively wielded by the most esteemed kimonos, known as chiefs or high-ranking members of the kimono race. Surprised by this revelation, Kabane and Inugami embark on a journey to locate Kabane's parents. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you won't miss any future content. Take care, and until next time.